Like, I'm pulling for Strickland because the personality's got this quirky, like sometimes his runoff jokes and things, like they go too far, but that's what's so funny about him.
What do you hear? What do you say? This is how to fuck up your parlay. I'm Timmy Shoes with Inside Fighting, and I'm joined once again by Robby Clark. Robby, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Listen, I definitely fucked up people's parlay who took my picks last week. But if you did the opposite and you just went with the title, you got a perfect score. You did well.
Yep, that's exactly right. Listen, folks, if you want to bet, you should probably go to our website and see Andrew Capacetti's picks because he's been on a roll lately. Me and Robby, not so much. But we are headed into the final UFC card of 2022, which is crazy. 2022 flew by. It was an amazing year in MMA, but we got a pretty good fight night card. UFC Vegas 66, Jared Cannonier versus Sean Strickland. What do you make of this card?
Man, I think it's all the fights are pretty competitive now. You go back 3, 4, 5 years ago, there was bigger discrepancies and like some of the smaller events, you see that, right, where you just know, okay, well, this guy's doesn't really have a chance, but they're all really competitive fights. Solid card, couple good personalities on the card as well too, so I'm excited for it. I'm excited for this one.
I'm excited for it too. Yeah, Strickland was having his moments on the mic in the build-up to the event, as he always does. But in the main event, Cannonier versus Strickland, it's a pick'em fight on the odds. DraftKings has both guys at minus 110. But the main difference I see between these two guys is Jared Cannonier has one punch knockout power, and Sean Strickland, he's more of a volume guy. Who do you like in that fight, Robby?
So yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, Strickland has a way of turning fights into a sparring match, and if it's a sparring match, he typically wins. Like, I'm pulling for Strickland because the personality's got this quirky, like sometimes his runoff jokes and things, like they go too far, but that's what's so funny about him. And he's entertaining, right? He hasn't fought for the belt yet. I think Jared is good, but he's getting up there in age. It's going to be tough to ever see him, potentially being a champion. He's got that one punch knockout power, but he's a bit slow. And I think Strickland struggles more with guys who've got speed. Jared, you can kind of read his punches sometimes. They're coming, he's just not the fastest guy in the division. And if he can avoid the takedown, Strickland, I'm going to root for him. I'm rooting for the personality in this one. So I'm picking Strickland, but it's going to be a tough fight. I could see him taking Strickland down, although Strickland's got pretty good defense and he can catch him, but Strickland seems to be good at, pulling away unless you're, fighting Alex Pereira. He's done a pretty good job of that throughout his career, so.
Yeah, he's a very good defensive boxer. He's good at parrying shots, but actually parrying the shots is what got him knocked out in that Pereira fight. But I think Alex Pereira,
two different animals.
Very different animals. The thing that I think is interesting is that Sean Strickland is fighting relatively soon after getting knocked out by Pereira at UFC 276. And what I'm wondering is if he gave himself enough time to recover. That's some things that fighters do sometimes that I think they should take a little bit more time off after getting knocked out. But it's 6 months later, but let's assume he took, a couple months off and then he went back. And we all know how he spars. We've seen the sparring footage. We've seen him beating up randoms at the gym too. So we know he spars hard, and I wonder if that's going to be a factor. Now, the co-main event is a very interesting fight. Arman Tsarukyan versus Damir Ismagulov. Ismagulov is 24-1. He is undefeated in the UFC. He's also never had a finish in the UFC. I believe he's from Kazakhstan. Arman Tsarukyan, he's from Russia. He's Armenian. He's got crazy wrestling, and he's a young kid. I believe he's only 25 years old. This is a kid that a lot of people view as the future of the lightweight division, or that the lightweight division is headed towards these younger Eastern European wrestlers. We've got Tsarukyan, we've got Mateusz Gamrot, who was the last guy to beat him. But Tsarukyan also fought Islam Makhachev in his UFC debut. And people forget this, but he gave Makhachev a tough time. That was Makhachev's toughest fight. So who do you like in this fight?
Listen, I think you're right with the young guns coming out there. I think what's actually happening is that mixed martial arts is really just maturing. Like, you're going to see in the early days when people didn't start training mixed martial arts till their 20s or like 30s, like Randy Couture. The peak was later on, even though maybe their athletic peak was a lot earlier. Obviously, Randy Couture was, an Olympian. Imagine he had been training since he was 3-4 years old. And now every single year, that number gets lower and lower. Like you see it in most professional sports, the peak is actually at a younger age, athleticism wise, right? Now there's so many variables in mixed martial arts, and heavyweights tend to mature later, and then the lighter divisions tend to mature earlier. So I like Arman in this one. I think he's a young stud. Man, this is a competitive fight. This is crazy when you see these guys coming in 24-3 is that's an amazing record in MMA, and
24-1 for Ismagulov.
24-1, sorry, yeah. Even better. So no, that's sorry, yeah. I'm talking about Arman, sorry, 18-3.
Yeah.
So, and that was such a tough fight, his last fight. And those two guys are like the top in the division. I can see either of those guys, they're going to compete with anybody in the top 3, in my opinion. Like that fight was crazy. Now you have these guys who are like, okay, they're kind of new entries, top 10, top 15. But they're coming in there and they're so technical, they're so skilled. You're like, I think they can compete with anybody at the top of the division. They're athletic, they're young. I'm going to go with Arman in this one.
I like Arman too. He is a -190 favorite. Ismagulov is a +160. We haven't really seen Ismagulov go up against a wrestler, at least with the pedigree of Saryukin. So I like Saryukin in that fight as well. Now we have a flyweight bout, an interesting one. Amir Albazi, who is a heavy favorite, the heaviest favorite on the main card at almost -400. He's -390 versus Alessandro Costa, who is a +320. Costa is making his UFC debut, so he's a bit of an unknown. He's got striking, he's got BJJ, but this is his UFC debut. He's a very heavy underdog, and people view Albazi as a guy who's going to be fighting for the flyweight belt. He beat Davison Figueiredo's brother, Francisco, in his last fight, and people think he's going to be fighting for the belt soon. So what do you make of this fight?
So I'll be honest, I've not seen a lot of either of these guys. Amir, I've seen a little bit. But I'll tell you one thing, Costa's a big underdog, but when they bring in these guys and they're coming off a big winning streak, sometimes is it a late notice fight or no?
I'm not sure, actually. He might be, because this is his debut. I'm not sure who Albazi was supposed to be fighting.
And that makes a difference in the matchmaking. It's not that the UFC is like, again, they're the best organization in the world at making people compete. So I'm not saying that they ever try to set anything up. They think, but you try to build stars. And Amir, though, is very good. If it's a short notice fight, I would lean even heavier to that way. But if it's not, there's a lot of upsets sometimes that happen when they schedule a fight. Like, hey, we got this really good contender, but maybe he doesn't got a lot of video footage out there, so the bookies don't know how to mark them. And Costa, I mean, he clearly knocks people out, right? So can he avoid the takedown? Can he avoid submissions? I'm not super familiar with his wrestling background, so that seems like it might be a factor in this one. I got to go with the odds in this just because I haven't seen enough of either of them. So I'm gonna the easy way out and maybe get a win. Rack up a couple points.
I think that's smart. Now, you were right. It was Brendan Royval. Sorry, he's supposed to be the original opponent for Albazi. But I mean, I might throw up $5 on Costa just because we don't know, right? We know that Albazi has crazy good wrestling for the division, but I believe Costa's got a few submissions, so maybe he throws up a triangle. You never know. You never know. Even Paul Craig submitted Magomed Ankalaev with a triangle. Yeah. So even wrestlers can get caught. Maybe he goes for a takedown and gets caught in a guillotine. So you never know.
To the face, you 3, 4, 5 to 1 underdogs in mixed martial arts. Man, anything can happen, as you know. Like a couple weeks ago, on the last one we did, I think 6 or 7 underdogs won in a row. So mixed martial arts is different. That's why it's so exciting. There's so many ways to win. So it's going to be a good fight. I'm going to go with Amir just because the odds, and I don't know enough about them, and now that you said the late notice fight as well too, but hey man, every fight's tough in at this level.
We'll see. I mean, Costa, I'm sure he's viewing this as his opportunity, so I'm sure he's going to do everything he can to try and win that fight. Now, next up, we've got Bruce Leroy. We've got two veterans, Bruce Leroy versus Julian Erosa. Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres, he's a plus 145 underdog. Erosa is the favorite, and I think that's a little bit surprising. I think this fight is a lot closer than the betting lines have it. Caceres lost his last fight, but before that, he was on a 5-fight winning streak. And Erosa is a guy who actually, he was a Contender Series prospect. He had a 3-fight losing streak in the UFC. He got cut, and then he came back. I think he came back as a late replacement, and then he performed well. So they gave him a new contract, and he's been doing pretty good ever since then. So what do you make of this fight?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I can see why Julian is a favorite. I mean, just first off, he's coming off, I think three-fight win streak, and Alex is coming off a loss. Of course, he put an impressive win streak together before that. I think he won 5 in a row or something like that. So, man, like I've been going with the favorites. Again, I'm going to go with my heart on this one because I want Alex to win. He's just entertaining. He's probably motivated coming off that loss. They're around the same age, 33, 34 years old, right? So I'm going to go with Caceres because I want Caceres to win. It's a tough fight. Like when he can keep his distance and not get those grinders in there, like Alex is tough for anybody, and he can pull things off. He can do some creative stuff that, Julian might not be able to do. But Rose is a grinder, and we'll see. But I'm going with Alex. Let's go.
I like Alex in that fight too. I think he shouldn't be an underdog. For me, this is a pick'em fight more so than the main event. I didn't share my pick, but I'll get back to that later from the main event. Going into my pick for a banger of the night, what I think is going to be the fight of the night. I think everyone's looking forward to this. Drew Dober versus Bobby Green. These are two veterans. These are two guys who throw down. This fight is going to be entertaining. Two guys who are very hard to finish, and they like to throw hands. So who do you like in this fight?
So it's funny because I checked this out before. That Bobby Green is actually the underdog here. And I can see why. I mean, Dober's a big bruising lightweight. When he gets in there, he's just a big dude. But the thing is, Drew's put together some impressive win streaks. He's obviously very exciting. But we've seen then, I mean, I guess at times you could say the same for Bobby Green against those, top tier wrestlers. He has some issues, but I still think Bobby Green has, performed more impressively on his feet against top tier fighters, if that makes sense. And Drew's fought, he hasn't fought as many top tier guys. He fought Islam, of course, and, he got
both lost
there, but yeah, exactly. But they both lost to Islam, but like that's wrestling. These guys are going to stand and bang. Yeah. And Bobby Green, like, man, I'm not going to go against him in this one. Both super excited. I'm always cheering for both of them too in any fight they're at. But just because Bobby's an underdog too, I want to take Bobby on this one because I think who's the last person to really beat him on his feet? Dustin Poirier?
Dustin Poirier knocked him out. That was a while ago, though.
Yeah.
That was a while.
Since then, it's like, who on their feet is beating Bobby Green? Like, he's looked super impressive against anybody. And of course, takedowns aside, and I don't think we're going to have many takedowns here. Maybe Drew shoots for one. He's got, he's not like a super heavy wrestler, but he can if he needs to against guys who are a little worse. But I think Bobby's going to be able to shoot that out. Unless you're a really good wrestler, they both got decent takedown defense. It's just against that elite, it's tough. But I think Bobby's going to take this one. I got Bobby on this one. He's fought the higher level competition on their feet, I feel, and I don't like the fact he's an underdog. I'm taking him on this one. Or I do like
he's a plus
underdog, so I'm taking him.
He's a plus 130. Drew Dober's minus 150. I think this is a very close fight. Dober, he likes to stand and bang. He does leave himself open sometimes. He is hittable. But the thing that's most interesting for me is these guys are very durable, especially on the feet. If this fight at no point goes to the ground, these guys are going to connect on each other, and they're both very hard guys to knock out. I know Dustin Poirier knocked out Bobby Green. That was a long time ago, and Dustin Poirier can knock out anybody. So I'm interested to see how Dober handles Green's striking, because I feel like Green is going to going to land combinations. And if Dober can weather the storm, we'll see if he can grind it out. But I don't think that, even though both guys are very durable and very tough, I don't see that one going the distance. I feel like a finish is inevitable. Now, heading into the last fight of the main card, we've got Michelle Polish names, last names give me nightmares. Oleg Sejuk versus Cody Brundage. Brundage is a heavy underdog at plus 240. Michelle, I'm going to call him Michelle because that's easier, is a minus 285 favorite. I like to call him Diet Blakovic, Jan Blachowicz. They look similar, and they have a similar style, although obviously Michelle's not on the same level. And I think this is a very interesting fight. If you're a guy who likes to pick big underdogs, I think Brundage might be a good pick because he's got some finishing power and Michelle's been knocked out before. So what do you make of this fight?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to disagree with you. He's on a 2-fight win streak in the UFC. He's actually got great wrestling. If you remember, he fought our boy Nick Maximov, and Maximov beat him. Yep. And but Cody, like, he's tough, man. He's a tough guy, and he's on a 2-fight win streak. He knocked out his last opponent. He won by guillotine in the first round, and this one before that. Michelle, he's really good. He's got that power, but he did struggle when he first came to the UFC a little bit. I think Cody's a better wrestler too. And Cody, like, man, he's not scared to stand either. Like, he's not scared of any position. He's just he's a tough out. I think as an underdog, I agree. I'm going to go with Bondage on this one. Because I think it's much more even than the odds are saying. And I could see different ways of him winning. I mean, they could both win by knockout, let's be real. But the confidence Bondage is going in with, when you come in with 2 finishes in the first round and you're climbing that ranks, because he did get beat handily by Maximov, I think 3 rounds. And the last round was kind of close, but he got beaten there. So to come off of that and then do 2 first-round finishes, your confidence is running high. He's still only 28 years old, so he's coming into his prime. Listen, I have no doubt he's motivated and trained hard. They're both young guys. I'm going with Bondage for this one.
I agree. I think it's a really valuable pick. I think the odds are kind of crazy to me. I don't know why he's such an underdog. Especially Michelle's
had a lot of hype coming into the UFC, and I think he still does. Not to discredit him, he's great and he's looked better. Even in his last fight in particular, he looked good. But it's a little hot and cold with him. So, Bondage shows up to fight every single time. That we know.
All right. So, are you ready for the super parlay? The super parlay.
Brundage.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm saying bondage. Bad Brundage.
The super parlay for UFC Vegas 66. This is my parlay. I'm going with Albazi because he's the heavy favorite. Saryukin because I think he's gonna edge it out. Cannonier, I think Jared's gonna knock out Sean Strickland. Remember that. That's my pick. I know we like the personality of Strickland, but I think Cannonier is going to find a way to land that big right hand. Then I'm going with Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres, and Brundage. Altogether, that gives almost plus 5,000 odds. It's plus 49.82. So $10 wins $508. What do you make of that parlay?
I like it. The Caceres fight makes me a bit nervous, but I think he can piece them up. I like it. Look, from the odds perspective, I mean, this is a great part about UFC. You string 3 or 4 or 5 together. Sometimes, hey, anything can happen. So that's definitely got a chance to hit. It does. So yeah, I like that one. Maybe it's fun to throw like 5 underdogs in a row sometimes, just a small bet on those anyways to see what's up. But let's see, Timmy. Let's see if this one hits.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, okay? The name of the show is How to Fuck Up Your Parlay. Just remember that, folks. Now, if you want to mix it up with the parlay, I've got some high-value winning methods. I got Brundage by KO is plus 850. Do you think Brundage can get the knockout?
Ooh. Yeah, he definitely can. Yeah, actually, that's actually good by knockout or TKO, right? That's not bad. I mean, he's got power in his fist. He's got decent stand-up. He's like, get that athletic, like when he throws, you can tell he's like he can throw, right? Like just naturally.
Chris shots.
Yeah, I like that one. That's a decent one.
I think that's a good one. This one's probably going to blow your mind. Bobby Green by KO or TKO is a plus 800. Can you believe that?
Wow. I mean, Dober's durable. But Bobby's quick and slips. I mean, he gets a lot of decisions there too. Wow. Yeah, both of those seem a little. I mean, there's a reason they put the odds so high, but that's surprising. Both those surprising me.
Yeah.
Good double parlay there. 2 KO, TKO for both. Odds are
Yeah,
huge.
if you want to, mix up your
Really fuck up
parlay,
your parlay.
yeah, Brundage by KO and throw in Bobby Green by KO. I mean, that's gonna up the odds a lot. Now, Caceres by submission is a plus 1,000. I think it's been a while since Bruce Leroy has gotten a submission, but plus 1,000, you got to at least consider it, right?
Yeah, I mean, looking at a Rosa, I think where's his submissions at? I mean, he can throw something up. You never know. Just looking at his record real quick. I didn't know he gets. He's not really getting submitted. In fact, he's never been submitted. So
yes, probably why it's plus 1,000.
Probably why it's plus 1,000. So again, I think that Juicy J, as he calls himself, a Rosa, I think that's a tough fight for Caceres. I almost want to change my pick, but I'm not going to. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm pulling for Alex. So
all right, now this is the biggest underdog. Alessandro Costa is plus 2,200 to win by submission. Now, I said we don't know how he's going to handle the wrestling, but maybe he throws up a guillotine. Maybe he throws up a triangle. Maybe he submits Albazi. And if you want to take that risk, that's a big payday. Plus 2,200, it might be worth it. Throw up $5, $10. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think now you might just be trying to lose people money. No. But Jack Hermanson, I mean, he was almost submitted his last fight, but the problem was his opponent was like 80cc. He was a world champion grappler as well, too. Yep. So I just don't think this guy's got the pedigree to submit him, but you never know. I would say KO TKO is more likely. I think he's going to want to keep this fight standing. But we'll see, Timmy. You're crazy. If you want to go for that, then you might, I mean, if it pays off, you look like a champion, and it makes up for 22 other bad bets. So
yeah, he is Brazilian, so I'm sure he has BJJ, even though he is more of a striker. And this last one's a bit surprising to me too. Arman Tsarukyan by submission is plus 750. Now, I think most people think Arman's going to win by decision. He's going to, wrestle. He's going to stay in position most of the fight. He's going to point his way to a decision. And that would be a safe bet. But plus 750 for Tsarukyan to win by submission, you got to consider that too. What do you think?
Honestly, I think the first two that you did with Bobby Green, I think those are the ones to make. The TKO, KO plus 800 for who was the first one before Bobby Green?
Brundage is
I
plus
think those are the best. Yeah, I think those are the best for anything plus 300 and above, like plus 800. I think those are the two safe picks. Safer.
All right. Wrapping it up, let's do quick hits right now. I want your picks on the main card. Tell me who's gonna win, who you got, and by how. Go. Jared Cannonier versus Sean Strickland.
Sean Strickland by decision.
Tsarukyan versus Ismagulov.
We're going with Arman in that one.
By submission,
decision.
Knockout.
I'm gonna do decision again. Yeah.
Albazi versus Costa.
Oh. KO TKO. Amir.
Nice. Caceres versus Arosa. This is a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, I was going back to Arosa by decision, but I'm gonna go Caceres by TKO.
Nice. Dober and Bobby Green.
Bobby Green. KO TKO. I think it's going to be a decision, but I want to see your plus 800 hit.
Let's see that hit. And now Michelle versus Brundage.
Brundage by knockout TKO. I think that's actually, that's, I could see that happening. I could definitely see that happening.
All right, and this is mine. I got Cannonier by knockout. I'm going to say knockout in the second round. Tsarukyan by decision. Albazi, I think he's going to wrestle his way to a decision. Caceres, I think he's going to edge out a decision. And Dober versus Bobby Green, that's tough. I'm going to go with Drew Dober by TKO in the third round after both guys are exhausted and have the hell beat out of each other. And then the last one, I'm going Brundage, first round knockout. Let's go. Let's see that 850 hit.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. All right, beauty, man. All right. I'm excited for these fights. I'm more excited now, so I got to look at some of these parlays.
All right, so folks, let us know in the comments how you set up your parlays. Follow us on social media, InsideFighting.com. We're on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. You know where to find us. Thanks for watching.